Hi everyone. I'm sorry I'm late. There's a lot going on in my life. Luke is, he's already, we tested him when he's over it. But apparently he had COVID again for the third time. And Jimmy has it now for the first time. So, craziness, right? Absolute craziness. So I'm hoping he doesn't get very sick. Luke, knock on wood, all 3 times when he had it. The first time was the most mild. The second time was extremely mild. This third time it was kind of like he just had a little bit of a lot of times, because he's very, he has a lot of allergies, seasonal allergies and things. So a lot of times will sound congested in the morning, at night and stuff. It's almost a constant thing. So he really didn't sound much different. And then, tested him, and just only because Jimmy tested positive. Otherwise, wouldn't have thought a thing about it. Knock on wood, Ethan is fine. And okay. So, I don't know. We got that going on there. And let me get into the live chat there. So, I watched the trial today. I have to catch up only with the couple of the last people to testify during the day, because my day was so crazy with all of this going on. But the important things were, to me, to see was the cross-examination of Luis Rivera, which I saw, and Katie Magbanua, Magbanua. I always forget. Magbanua. And I say Magbanua. Magbanua. Okay. She testified. We'll just call her Katie, and then we'll get rid of it. So now, an interesting thing about Katie is that they offered her full immunity if she testified in the beginning at the trial of her baby daddy, Sigfrido Garcia. And, she didn't take it. She said because she would have had to testify, and they said against Charlie. She said, no, against my children's father, Sigfrido. So, how stupid is this woman? She is now away for life without the possibility of parole because she did not take an immunity offer. And then the defense kept saying your kids are your life and everything, and you're not leaving prison except in a box. You know that, right? And then now she's saying she's hoping the prosecution will do something for her in return for her testimony, but she has not been told that anything will be done for her. So, Luis, he was cross-examined, and, basically it was very damning for Charlie, to say the least. And then testimony that came after, really damning for the family. But let's go over this. And I didn't even share out my video or do any of the stuff I'm supposed to. I'm not doing what I need to do, am I? Okay. Okay, so we know Rivera got a deal cut to him, right? He got a 19-year sentence that's running concurrently with a federal sentence on an unrelated case for him to testify, okay? He testified that he was with Sigfrido Garcia when Dan Markel was murdered. And that, what they went over today. They went over today that, the defense attorney was like, these people lied to you, right? They lied to you. And lied about what? He's like, well, they lied to you about many things. Didn't they lie to you about the woman in the street being Wendy Adelson and her kids? And he was like, yeah, but then, the prosecution was like, well, what do you mean they lied to him? That's who he thought it was. And how do we know it wasn't? So, yeah, let's see. He was saying Garcia lied and Magbanua lied to Luis from the start. They lied about the purpose of the trip to Tallahassee, about the lady in the street, about the money that you received. And Rivera was saying, yeah, but then he said, is it possible that Sigfrido Garcia and Katie Magbanua lied to you about the extortion plot? And Rivera said he didn't know. He said he thought they were just going to rob Dan Markel, but Magbanua and Garcia said they had to murder him. Garcia told Rivera they were just going to watch Markel and not actually kill him on the first trip. On the day of the murder, Luis Rivera testified that he saw Dan Markel drop his kids off at daycare. He wanted to be sure the kids weren't around. I don't want to do that in front of the kids. The initial plan was for Luis Rivera to be the shooter, but he refused and didn't want to be the one to pull the trigger, so Garcia stepped in. And then defense attorney Rashbaum said he has Rivera clarify that he was in the Latin Kings gang, and that's a criminal gang. And he said, if that's what you want to call it, I call it a family. And the Latin Kings had absolutely nothing to do with the murder. He said, I can promise you that. I don't even know these people. Before the trial, Rivera said he'd never even met Charlie Adelson. And then next up was Katie Magbanua. She said she lied in the last two trials to defend herself. Okay. She said that the Adelsons and everybody else, they did not pay for her lawyers. They did not promise her or ask her not to say anything. And that the murder for hire plot was a favor for Charlie. But the primary motive wasn't because of Charlie, but for the money. And then Assistant State Attorney Georgia Kappelman said, who came up with the idea to kill Dan Markel? She said, Charlie. Charlie needed a man for the job. Katie knew a guy who could do it. She said that Charlie told her that his sister was having trouble with her ex-husband and she was struggling to get custody of her kids. But they stressed that even when Dan Markel was killed, that Katie didn't even know his name. She only knew the man they were after was Wendy's husband. He painted, and I quote her saying, he painted this picture that this was a terrible man and he was making his family go through a lot. On a night at Charlie's house, she said that Charlie gave her a sealed envelope and told her not to touch it or open it. He was wearing gloves, so he didn't leave fingerprints on it. And she said he was very specific about her not opening it. He started planting seeds about getting the job done. He was becoming more persistent close to the month of the murder, July. And the money she eventually received for the job was stapled in the corner and carefully stowed away in a plastic bag inside a brown bag with a grocery bag over it. And gross, the $100 bills were moldy, she said. And she said to Garcia, ooh, the money is moldy. And he said something like, get a blow dryer. And she's like, but why would it be moldy? And she was thinking that Charlie Adelson's mother, Donna, washed the money. And they asked her, why did she feel that way? And she said, because Charlie never kept cash in his house, and his parents had just stopped by, and that made her believe that the money came from the mother, the parents. So then the prosecution goes over that she was offered a plea deal, she was offered immunity, she didn't take it. And they said, oh, because you wanted, the defense asked her why. Because to give up Charlie, I had to give up the father of my children, and I couldn't do that, she said. And Rashbaum said the only way for her to get out of prison is in a box or to cooperate with the state. And then she says, well, I have an appeal. And then he was like, oh, that's right. You have an appeal, right? And in this appeal, you're saying something totally different, aren't you? She said, I lied in my trials to save myself. I'm not saving myself. I'm telling the truth this time. I believe the truth has to come out. The defense attorney grilled her, asking her if she was working with the state to go home, but she denied it. She said she's doing this all on her own and that her attorneys aren't even in the room. So then Rashbaum said to her, and I quote, 2 hours into your first interview, you still were not admitting you were part of the murder. She said, yes, it was hard for me to admit. It still is right now. She said she didn't know of the bad joke that Adelson kept making about buying a TV because it was a cheaper present for her sister than hiring a hitman. And he feels like he is untouchable. She said he knew he was hiring a hitman. Katie denied being the mastermind behind the murder plot. She said it was Charlie Adelson. And then Rashbaum says, you're hoping the state helps you, right? She says, of course, I want to see my children again. Then she was let go, and they brought in Clarissa Libredo. So she's worked in the Adelson's dental practice for 40 years, and she is also still working. They sold the practice 2 years ago, and this woman is still working in the practice with the new owners. She said she only saw Katie in the office one time, and that she didn't work there, because Katie got checks, that were from that dental practice. And first it was like, oh, she cleans offices there, or she does this or that and the other thing. But no, this worker that was on the employee that was on the stand said, no, not true. Then comes Erica Johnson, another Adelson Institute, that's the dental practice again, employee. And she testified she never saw Katie in the practice. And now the prosecution played a recording, which was a phone call between Charlie and Erica. And she said, oh, the FBI came here and they're asking for records of Katie Magbanua's employment here. And Charlie was so crazy on this. He's like, well, what are they doing? Okay, well, that's not my office, right? That's not my office. And I don't know where any records are. So, and she goes, oh, so it's not my office. I wouldn't know where any records are. And he's like, exactly. You can tell them to go ask my parents, and I wouldn't tell them anything, but I'm not telling you who you can talk to and who you can, he knows. And then he tells her he's going to call her back from another phone and on her cell phone. And then Mary Hull was the financial investigator for the state attorney's office, and she was on. And she was talking about how she reviewed the investment accounts and the bank records of Charlie, Charlie. Donna, this is the mother of Charlie and Wendy. And then Harvey, who's the father of Charlie and Wendy, and along with Wendy, as well as Luis Rivera, Sigfredo Garcia, and Catherine Magbanua. She said that there were thousands of dollars in payments from the Adelson Institute to Katie Magbanua, even though there's no records that she ever worked there. And by Katie's own mouth, she never worked there, not even to clean offices. They had written 44 checks to Katie every 2 weeks starting October 17th of 2014, which was nearly 2 months to the day of Dan Markel's murder. Every check was signed by Donna Adelson, and all but one check was written for $407.50, reaching a total of almost $18,000, and the check stopped around the time Sigfredo Garcia was arrested. Hull's investigation revealed that Rivera had a very unique banking pattern. He operated mostly in cash and would overdraft until his next paycheck rolled in from Coastal Masonry, and that's where he worked. Immediately after the murder of Dan Markel, he no longer pulled out cash. His normal banking patterns resumed about 4 months after the murder. So get that, he went through his cash, right? She testified that shortly after Dan Markel's murder, Luis Rivera bought a 2003 Suzuki motorcycle, bought a 1996 Toyota Camry, and Sigfrido Garcia bought a 1997 Honda Racer and a 1984 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Katie Magbanua got a 2001 Lexus sedan, which she got from Harvey Adelson in 2016. So they gave her a 15-year-old car. The title says that she paid $1,700, but the investigator Hall could find no record or sign that anything, either in Katie's account or the Adelsons, reflected that at all. So then the next person on this stand was Sergeant Corey Hale, and that's the Tallahassee police sergeant that investigated the murder and reviewed Wendy Adelson's ex-boyfriend Jeffrey Lacasse's involvement in the crime, and he testified that Lacasse was ruled out as a suspect because he was in a different state at the time of the murder. And then the last witness of the day was TPD Sergeant Chris Corbett, supervisor of the TPD's Technical Operations Unit, and testified that he pored over messages recovered from Charlie Adelson's iCloud messages and said that Dan Markel was in 3 different locations the morning of his death. Location 1, his house. Location 2, the kids' preschool. Location 3 was the Premier Gym. The phone records trailing the hitmen show that they were likely in each of those locations at the same time as Dan Markel. And the report shows that Adelson had a significant amount of communication with all 3 of the convicted murderers, Sigfrido Garcia, Luis Rivera, and Catherine Katie Magbanua. No one else from the Adelson family communicated with those 3 except for one 37-second phone call between Garcia and Harvey Adelson. And the data traced the 2, Sigfrido and Rivera, to Tallahassee on June 4th, 2014. Okay, that was like a little over a month before the murders, a month and a couple of weeks there. But Corbett said they only have data on Rivera's phone in connection to specific pinpointed locations. However, he said that Adelson was in contact with Magbanua 17 times while they were in Tallahassee. And there's text messages between Charlie Adelson and Katie Magbanua on display for the jury while he walked the jurors through their relevance. And in all the messages, are there any where they discuss Charlie Adelson being blackmailed or extorted by violent people wanting to hurt his family? And that was asked by Sarah Dugan, the prosecutor, and Corbett says, none that I found. So this whole thing where they're having that he's being extorted and all this crap is just like that, a bunch of crap. Let me see something here about... It's weird. And this guy on the stand, he reminds me of Casey Anthony's father for some reason. I think that's who it is that it reminds me of. I don't know if you saw him. Let me see if I'll pull up a picture of Corbett. Let me see here. Not so much from the side, maybe. It's just something. I mean, it's not like it reminds me of just a resemblance. Just a resemblance. Okay, let me go here. When they had Luis on, they talked about that time when Sigfrido was driving with Luis Rivera, and they said, was Sigfrido, was he upset that Katie was seeing this dentist? He said, yeah, what wouldn't you be if, your girl's cheating on you? In other words, and when they went to that dinner where it was during spring break, and Wendy Adelson brought that professor, she was the Jeffrey Lacoste, with her, and it said that Sigfrido said, well, maybe I should just run him down. And then they talked about Sigfrido drinking and constantly always being, under the influence of alcohol and being erratic and stuff like that, but being really upset about Katie with this other guy and not liking that and wanting to run him down. But that didn't happen. So let's see. There is something else too. Let me go to the chat and just see what you guys are saying about this. Let me see. Where's my live chat? Right here? No, it's not my live chat. This is my live chat. Okay. And let me get onto Top Chat. So, what do you guys think? Who's watching the trial? I still am convinced that... thank you for being a VIP Rambler for 6 months. And thank you for the super chat, El Cassie. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Hi, Kato. Hi, everybody. Let's see who's here. Say hello to everybody. Deborah, Kato, Elle, It's Bink, Linda, Nightbot, how are you? Sherry. I know that. There's Margot. I know Sharon's in the Zoom. Barb Olson, you've been watching the trial. What do you think? Do you still think, Barb, that... I believe he's going to be... I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to be life. What do you think? What do you think? That's what I think. Do you think... And you see any... Does anybody see any resemblance to that guy in... Casey Anthony's father a little bit, something in there? I don't know, I see it. I see it. There's a couple of other things I want to touch on after this. Let's see if that's from last night. Let's get that. Watching his goose is cooked. Yeah, but even though the defense tried to make her look, just totally like you couldn't trust her. Hi, Teresa, you're watching too, right? What do you think? You think that definitely going to go down there? Is he going down? I think... Without a doubt. I'm not even worried. He looks like Michael Francis. Michael Francis. I'm trying to think who Michael Francis is. I don't know. He just gives me this. Anyway, a little bit of a Francese. I don't know. Let's see what else we can tell you about this trial before we go on, because there's a couple of other things that I want to. There's another trial coming up that I will be covering, and I'll tell you what that is. That's going to be that yoga teacher that ran down killed the bicyclist that was in town for an event, and then she fled to Costa Rica, right? And I also want to talk about, remember that Massachusetts Latter-day Saints where the mother was found dead and the father was disappeared? Okay, let me show you. So Massachusetts police say the 33-year-old man who's accused of killing his wife left a disturbing note on his phone incriminating him for her death, according to the arrest warrant. Let's see if we can get this over here. Let me grab this. Let's get his arrest warrant, okay? Let's get his arrest warrant. Let me pull this up. Get over there. Get over there. Okay, let me make this larger if you're reading along at home. Okay, so on 10/22/2023, this is about for Aaron M. Pennington, 42 Cherry Street, Gardner, Massachusetts. On 10/22/2023, did assault and beat Brianne Pennington with intent to murder such person, and by such assault and beating did kill and murder such person. Based on the following statements of facts, there is probable cause to believe that Aaron Pennington committed the crime of murder in violation of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 265, Section 1. On Sunday, October 22nd, 2023, at approximately 9:14 hours, the Gardner Police Department dispatch received a 911 call from a party who had requested assistance after her neighbor's 4 children came over to her house reporting that they could not find their father and that their mother was in her bedroom crying. The 4 children were known to reside with their parents at 42 Cherry Street in the city of Gardner. The children also stated that their father's vehicle was no longer in the residence's driveway. The Gardner Police Department and the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicle Records indicated that 42 Cherry Street in Gardner was occupied by 2 adults identified as Brianne Pennington, date of birth 10/27/1992, and Aaron Pennington, date of birth 10/13/1990. At approximately 9:19 hours, the first responders arrived at the residence and they found Brianne Pennington lying in bed in an upstairs bedroom with obvious signs of death from an apparent gunshot wound to the head. The responding Gardner PD officers performed a protective sweep of the residence and were unable to locate anyone else inside the house or any visible weapons. Brianne Pennington was pronounced deceased inside the home by Woods Ambulance paramedics Alexis Wheeler at 9:30 hours. Investigators obtained video surveillance evidence from the Pennington's neighbor, which showed Aaron Pennington exiting the driveway at 42 Cherry Street at approximately 8:50 hours on October 22nd, 2023, in a white 2013 BMW 320 sedan that was registered to him. At 9:07 hours, the 4 children were observed exiting the residence and walking over to the residence next door. Okay, so they were gone 17 minutes later. Brianne Pennington was known to have a firearm at the residence. For her protection, investigators executed a search warrant at 42 Cherry Street and did not locate a firearm. However, they did locate 3 spent shell casings in the bedroom. On Monday, October 23rd, an autopsy was performed on Brianne Pennington. The cause of death was determined to be a gunshot wound to the head, and the manner of death was homicide. On Tuesday, October 24th, 2023, a search warrant was issued authorizing the search of certain content on Aaron Pennington's cell phone. Okay, and after reviewing a limited portion of the cell phone's content, investigators learned that there was a note from 1904 hours on Saturday, October 21st, that stated, "Don't say anything. Be quiet. If she wakes up, just say you're getting nasal spray. Get on side of bed, very close proximity to head. Put hole in her head." Can you believe he had her even write that down? Accordingly, there is probable cause to believe that on or about Sunday, October 22nd, 2023, Aaron Pennington, date of birth 10/13/1990, did commit the crime of murder upon Brianne Pennington in violation of MGL 265-1. Okay. So, those who knew the couple said Aaron Pennington had mental health struggles, and threatened suicide in the past, and that he and his wife had been having marital issues for a while. They also said that Brianne Pennington was planning to move away with their 4 children. Aaron Pennington remains at large. Authorities have been searching for him since Sunday morning when his wife was found dead inside their house. Authorities are warning the public not to approach Pennington. He's an Air Force veteran, and he is considered armed and dangerous. State police said the area searched over his BMW, his 2013 BMW was found in a wooded area. And state police said the area searched over Tuesday and Wednesday comprises approximately 200 heavily wooded acres. And according to the state police, no widespread search for Pennington is planned for Thursday, barring the development of new information. The investigation into Brianne Pennington's death and Aaron Pennington's whereabouts remains ongoing by the Gardner Police Department, the Massachusetts State Police, and the state police detectives assigned to the Worcester's County's District Attorney's Office, and anyone who has seen Aaron Pennington or has information about his whereabouts should call 911. Okay. That was the first thing I wanted to talk about. Now I want to talk about the other trial that I'll be following. Trial of Caitlin Armstrong. Okay. Okay, this timeline has never made sense for me since the beginning of this case when I've been on this. So, jury selection began today on the murder trial of Texas yoga instructor Caitlin Armstrong. She's accused of shooting a romantic rival to death and then fleeing the country, changing her appearance to avoid arrest. Caitlin Armstrong is charged with killing professional cyclist Mariah Mo Wilson on May 11th, 2022. The shooting of the 25-year-old was done at the Austin home of her friend, where Mo Wilson was staying while she was competing in a nearby race. Mariah Mo Wilson allegedly had a fling with Armstrong's boyfriend, fellow cyclist Colin Strickland, when the two were separated. Prosecutors say that Caitlin Armstrong believed they were still having an affair when Mo Wilson was killed just after Strickland dropped her off at the friend's house after the pair went swimming together. Strickland lied about where he had gone that day, feeding Armstrong suspicions, and her Jeep was reportedly seen in the area near the time that Mariah Mo Wilson was killed. Questioned Armstrong briefly but released her, and she used that time to flee to Texas and then to Costa Rica, where she cut and dyed her hair and began teaching yoga under a different name. After a 43-day manhunt, she was captured and brought back to Texas, and she pled not guilty. Now, earlier this month, she tried to escape custody during a medical visit, and officers chased her for about a mile and brought her back into custody. She was charged with escape, causing bodily injury, and was due in court on that charge next month. And jury selection began today, so let's see how that's going. It's always like two going on at the same time, you know? So crazy. I wonder when they think they're going to have opening statements, right? Excuse me.